Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen. We're here with comic Dylan Adler. Dylan Adler, how the hell are you, man?
I'm good. I woke up. I woke up recently. I'm very good though. I'm feeling energized.
Dude, the best part of waking up is to Koppen with Comic podcast.
Yes, yes.
Well, yeah, where can people find you do online comedy? You know, like where were you playing before, or
Yeah,
just where are they going to track you during this quarantine?
you can follow me on Instagram at Dylan Adler _ or Twitter at Dylan Adler 6. I have some YouTube videos up, but before everything went down, I was doing some caveat shows with my friend Kelly. The show Rape Victims Are Horny Too, so you can check that out if you want.
Yeah, that's your show, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh shit! I was always wondering. Oh my gosh! All right, so yeah, tell me about that show because yeah, she's got a lot of press for her interaction with what's his name, Weinstein.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't know, Kelly was on a show where Harvey Weinstein was in the audience,
Yeah,
and she called out Harvey Weinstein and like, because no one was talking about it, everyone was like pretending it was okay, and she got a huge amount of press around that, and
yeah.
for calling that out, and then she like started a whole festival around like rape victims actually telling jokes about it, and then I was on that show, and then that's how we met, and then we like started our own like kind of like our show of doing material about trauma and stuff, and we're going to continue doing that once quarantine is over. So that's how we met, and I think she's awesome. She's like one of my favorite people.
And are you comfortable talking about that on the podcast? We had
Yeah,
planned to talk about something else, but I forgot that
yeah,
you're that dude.
yeah. No, I'm comfortable talking about that.
Okay, so yeah, how do you deal with the trauma of sexual assault in a way that it's honest, it's authentic, but also everybody in the audience is just fucking laughing at every word.
When I first was doing, I was like really afraid to do jokes about like my rape, because I thought like, oh God, like I didn't really see many guys doing, or even like queer people or guys talking about experience with sexual assault or rape. So I thought, oh my, like are people gonna believe me, or no one's gonna believe me because I'm a guy talking about this, or they'll think I'm making a joke about it and they're gonna hate me. So,
Right.
but I feel lucky that I haven't had that response. And I do a lot of it at mics and at shows. I try out a lot of material about it, and sometimes it does get like a positive response from especially like trauma victims, but sometimes like the audience will like clench up and be like, oh God, like what is going on. So it's like it does feel really like, ooh, like charged to get a mixed reaction on material that's really vulnerable. But I mean, like, at the end of the day, I really believe in the material, and I think it's probably like my favorite thing to talk about, because it's cathartic, and if people have been through trauma, they can relate. So I still do it anyway.
But I love that you organized a show around it, because I suppose like the adverse reaction you could get from certain audience members would be in a situation where, they came out to a comedy club and didn't want to hear about rape because of something in their own life. They came out there to laugh or whatever. And I thought Margaret's show had some
Mhm.
sort of experience with something like that. But by kind of organizing a show around it, they know what they're getting into. So it's the perfect
Yes.
situation.
Exactly. Like the thing is like people know that they're coming to a show about trauma, and if they, and I totally understand, like Kelly and I really don't want anyone to feel like, not prepared to feel emotions that they weren't uh, prepared, or feel like they're not ready to hear about. That's,
Yeah.
we don't want to like do that, but to organize a show around that where people are like, okay, I'm ready to hear about this, that's like ideal.
And so how are you? I mean, since you've been doing the material, it sounds like at first you were like, people are gonna believe it, or are people gonna think I'm joking?
Yeah.
Like, how has your assessment of their reaction changed over time? Like in the perfect situation, are these people, are they laughing? Are they crying? Are they coming up to you afterwards and saying, well, here's my experience?
You know what? That was actually the most shocking thing to me, how so many people after I would do material about it, like in particular like men, I think gay men and like straight men, even like men, and come up to me being like, oh my, like that happened to me, and like thank you for saying that and joking about that. And like I the response of laughter, I think, is beautiful, because that's like identification, like response of like feeling emotional, and that it is also a response of identification. But like people, I think, like queer people and um male identifying people, like come up and um say like, thank you, because I feel like I'm co-opting something as well, but it's like, your experience is also valid,
Right. And so, like, what can you say to those people? I mean, is there any resources that you've come across and just kind of like, what helped you get through the trauma to the point you were comfortable talking about it on stage?
Yeah, I think therapy is very, very helpful. Doing a treatment, EMDR has helped me, which is like a treatment for trauma. Yeah, I recommend talking about it in therapy, because I think me being able to give it voice in therapy was like, grounds for me to like, open up about it on stage and maybe be a little more okay with it than I feel like if I didn't open up about it in therapy.
And what angles can be funny? Like, like you're not, going up there and saying I got raped. It's of course that in and of itself, but that's not really the name of the show. The show is, what rape
Rape
victims get
victims are
horny
horny
too.
too.
So that's
Yeah,
that's one of the angles that can be funny.
yeah. And so I think like, kind of pointing at, because a lot of like victims of rape and trauma can relate to like the fact that it's like you are, there's something you can find funny in. I think I have a joke about like sometimes, because for me I was raped in the Lower East Side, and whenever I like, there's just something about like walking around the neighborhood that's like, and I don't remember where it was, so it's like I walk around the neighborhood like, like what, like just, or
Was
just
it
you
here?
can, yeah,
Was
it's
it
like
here? Oh yeah.
like Where's Waldo, you can just like trying to like be a detective, or there's certain things that you can like, that I try to find that's like something humorous, or like the fact that, really rape victims are horny too, like we're like laughing at, it's like, yes, we're still like horny as fuck and want people to tell us we're hot, and like, but
Yeah.
also like don't touch us, and like please, like please keep your distance, but like please tell me I'm the hottest person in the world or I'll go crazy.
Well,
But
yeah, and I guess what my question there is, I mean, one thing I like about the fact you're doing this show based around this is you're drawing the right people to you, like meaning any guy who comes up
yeah,
to you after the show is going to, know that you're a rape victim, in
mhm.
case anybody who is just a little bit weirded out, like, oh, how am I, like, oh, should I touch them? I don't know. Like, so you're drawing the
Yeah,
right
yeah,
people
yeah,
to
yeah,
you,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like, when did you typically, for somebody you just meet on an app or in real life or something, not at your show, at what point do you bring it up in the kind of relationship
Yeah.
series of steps?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, for me, I haven't been on many dates in the past 2 years, because I'm still like, like trauma stuff is still very charged for me, and I still feel, not in like the most stable place, but I've now gone on a little bit more dates, and I've some people that I used to be like really hesitant about it, but I think, you know, I think it's like I'll tell before like a sexual experience that might go on, like, about like some boundaries that I have or
Okay.
things, so that they know that it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah, you're like, when I say that I don't like certain things, they're not suggestions.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly.
you choking me is going to really be a deal breaker.
Sure, yeah, yeah. Or just like I want to let people know why I don't feel comfortable, why like I don't feel comfortable with certain things, because it's like um and like a part of me always feels guilty for bringing it up, but it's like no, I have to like stand and like I have to stand in that and own it. And it's like, and if they can't accept that, then it's like, fuck off.
Yeah. Wow. All right. And then, what other kind of stuff, there's a lot of shit going down right now with the protests, and that was one thing we are going to talk about. Um, and I guess I was coming from the perspective of, if I'm just a straight white dude, should I be protesting? And I think you said something like, in our
Oh yeah,
pre-interview, you were
absolutely.
like, dude, everybody can protest. And I
No,
mean,
like no one should feel like that all any qualms about like, is it my place? Like, is it like no, imperfect protest is how you should do it. Like you like people have to speak up like no matter how guilty or like weird or like, whatever like you got to do it because like that's how everyone has to put in their voice to
yeah.
this.
And what I like too is that people are starting to, not only is the video of the murder just insane, like people have not been shocked enough by that shit in the past. And now what might be more likely to shock people is the fact that a bunch of white people are getting fucking beat down by the cops. I mean, I don't want anything like that to happen, but it totally is, to the point where that in and of itself might be shocking enough to spur some people to change. It's like,
I
now
mean,
somebody who's gone to protest and fucking got kettled or whatever. Like, once it's your white brother doing that, it hits close to home where people might start actually really asking for real change.
like everyone has to be involved.
Yeah.
You can't like be, and I've even noticed like within the past week, people have like lightened up on some things, and it's like people on Twitter have started posting their jokes, and I'm like, do you like someone yesterday was like found dead in California, like
Wow.
that, like I don't know, like it's like there was a lot of pressure, and you could see that there was like there was actionable, there were actions being done. You could see that there was some change happening, and now that it's like lining up, it's little bits like no, you got to keep your foot on the gas.
Yeah. And luckily, since everybody's out of work, they're going to be able to keep the protests up longer.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, this is not something where everybody's going to be going to work instead. It's like, no, nobody's
Yeah,
got a job. And also there's less to pay attention to, like, meaning, there's less sports going on and stuff like this. And so this is like one of the only shows in town. And just hopefully all these, factors come together. The confluence of these factors can be such that we're actually going to have real change coming on. I think it took
yeah.
pictures of, people being, shot with fire hoses and fucking having dogs sicked on people back in the 60s that led to the Civil Rights Act. So let's hope the legislation can get passed.
Yeah, and like even back then it was known as like the thought of like civil rights was like radical back then. And now today it's like defunding the police, that seems radical. Like changing the system, that seems right, but it's really not.
Yeah. And is there any other changes that you would protest? I mean, like, just generally before this happened, or I suppose it's always been an issue that you could protest, but is there something in your own life that you would not only join the march, but lead the march?
I think for things like something that I would protest or like really advocate for is like really teaching a chapter on like sexual assault and rape in like family in like sex ed in high school,
Yeah.
and like really like drilling that in education systems, and like because that you learn in sex ed, I mean, what do you really even learn? And you learn about STDs. I mean, like great, cool,
Yeah.
like you using protection, but it's like you don't learn about consent. You don't learn about, and you don't even really learn about like queer like queer any things about like queer sex or like
Yeah.
that whole thing. So there are a lot of like advocating for rape victims, and also like that, yeah, that's something I feel really strongly about.
Now, is consent some of the jokes that come out of your is consent one of the funny angles? Like, now going forward, consent is at least more people are learning that consent is something that should be affirmatively given and given out loud in words, and not just kind of
Yeah,
you know
silence isn't consent. Like this like you can't like body language isn't like it's like you have to really like say yeah.
Is there any jokes you're kind of doing that, as far as now that people dates you've gone on where people have been a little bit weird about consent, like as far as like just been a little awkward because consent was something that had to be affirmatively given?
Or yeah, I mean like me and Kelly like joke about it, say like just like in our we like point out that it's like porn is not like, some of the scenes in porn are like literal rape, And
Yeah.
so that's people's ideas of what sex is. Like
Yeah.
that, like literally like what's shown in porn is like oftentimes like rape. And so it's like you can't like think like that's an idea of what like sex is.
And given that's the case, is there anything, after the crime, after your sexual assault is there anything in porn that became a trigger after the fact?
Um
Highly personal question that you don't need to answer, but I'll throw it out
yeah,
there.
like damn, Brian. No,
The hard hitting, like I always ask the toughest questions of comics because everybody's pretty open and honest.
yeah, no,
But
let
feel
me
free to,
see.
yeah, just totally do a non-answer. Be like,
Well,
well, the porn
yeah.
I'm into is this. Yeah.
Yeah, porn that feels like super, I don't know, like forceful, like that to me is like I don't like that. And
Okay.
I didn't really even like that before, but like after that it's like I can't want, and it's like, you have to recognize that some of the things they do in porn is like actual like assault and rape. And you in real life you can't do that, even like because everyone in this generation watches porn, and if that's your idea of what sex is, that's it's like fucked up.
Well, it was a perfect answer, and feel free to have me edit it out after the fact. But this is one of those topics that could be taught in Dylan Adler's sex ed class. That the
Yes.
relationship between porn and people's just warped versions
Yes,
of it.
and that's like what we talk about in our show too, like
Good.
in like a comedic way.
And is that coming? As rape victims are horny too. Is that being done on Zoom now?
We did one online version that was really, really fun.
Okay.
Um, but we're not doing it on Zoom. Me and Kelly, we used to do, well, before 3 weeks ago, we would do like a variety show on Zoom, not doing maybe one song from that show, but mostly we just do like silly improvised songs.
Yeah, because you play piano, keyboard.
Yeah, play piano.
Wow. And so are you in all their bands? I mean, doesn't she have a band with Julie Pinheiro?
Yeah, she's in a band. It's called Boys Drool,
And you're
and
not in. You're
she's,
not in that.
yeah, I'm not in it.
What the heck,
And
man? Is it because you're a boy and boys drool, or what?
no, I get it. Boys suck. Yes, but like I think, yeah, she has some really great music out there. You should check them out.
But so
Boys.
you did some of those songs in one of your shows, and and rape victims are people too. You guys are doing a lot of music then.
Yeah, and Rape Victims Are Horny too. It's like all music. It's like musical comedy. And we wrote it in 2 months, and we put it up, and the response we got, like it was like probably one of the like best nights of my life.
The whole thing's a musical.
Yeah. Not like a musical, like a story. Like it's not
Okay,
like Dear Evan Hansen, but it's like, could you imagine?
it's
But
just a
like
series of songs.
it's a series of songs, and it has kind of a story, and it's like Kelly's story, my story, like how we, yeah.
I
I'm
love
really
that.
I've never been more proud of
Yeah,
something. I think
I love that.
I'm
So you
really
kind of
proud
have
of
a
it.
little story about a little song about your story. She has a little song about her story, and then you guys can
Yeah,
come together.
how we come together, and like how what shared trauma, what the shared experience of trauma feels like. And it's so crazy how so many things that I was talking about when we were writing it, like Kelly been through the same thing too, like because we've had therapists before that like victim blame, and like they're like these boomer people who like are like, well, I mean, what how much did you drink? It's like, and what were you, like, seriously. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like my therapist is
Yes.
gaslighting me. So we have so many shared experiences, and like it's just it's insane, and a lot of people have the same experience too. So
Well, it's so great to see that, and I would love to see even a musical. Like if you guys were to, just fucking tie it all together in just a big old musical. I would fucking pay $10 on iTunes to see that.
ah, thank you.
But in the meantime, I'll look at Dylan Adler at
It's going to
Dylan
grocery money.
Dylan Adler 6 to see what your next Zoom show is or whatever. But
Yeah,
you're
on
also,
Twitter.
yeah, are you DylanAadler.com?
Oh yeah, yeah. My website is DylanAadler.com,
Okay.
on Instagram at Dylan Adler underscore, and on Twitter at Dylan Adler 6.
Well, I'm gonna have to warn you, if I don't see some of this musical thing on iTunes soon, man, I'm gonna have to protest because I learned
Yes.
from Dylan Adler I could protest.
Yes, and you can create change and force us to make it. We're gonna do. We are like we're planning the next thing. We want to make like an album. We want to record the songs so
Yes.
people can listen to them.
Dude, I would totally listen. That's so fucking cool. Dylan Adler, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. This was great.